Ladies and gentlemen, time preparedness, welcome back to the channel. Today's video we are talking about the difference between survival and thriving through some sort of scenario. Now, I've spoken with a lot of people both here on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook about SHTF scenarios. Great Depressions, recessions, hyperinflation events, zombies, aliens, you name it, World War III. And a lot of them say the same thing. They say that they want to survive whatever is coming. And in my mind, I know exactly what they mean. I know what they mean because I was in the same boat. They mean that they want to outlast the event. They mean that they want to live longer than the event is taking place. And that makes sense. But what doesn't make sense is when they set their preps up just to survive. You see, there's a big difference between surviving and thriving. If I asked you, what do you need for a 3-day power outage? Some of you guys have a list and you are ready to name it off. You need food because you can't go hungry. You need water because you can't get thirsty. You need lights because Lord forbid you sit in the dark. You need entertainment because you can't be bored. You got to have a backup communication system because you need to know what's going on with the world and talk to your girlfriend, because if not, she's going to break up with you and Lord forbid your life's going to be over. You got to have a ways to bathe because you can't stink, right? You have a list of about 250 things that you need to survive a 3-day event. But when you talk to the survival experts in the prepping community, it's a little different. Because we have a ton of survival experts, and I use that term very loosely, in the prepping community. Some of them are worth their absolute weight in gold. And every video, every comment they put out is slap full of knowledge, is slap full of survival information. Then we have others who talking about survival. Their closest thing to survival is when they went camping back when they were 15 and spent a night out in the woods. You know, that's been 40 years ago. If you talk to either one of the experts, they're going to tell you the same thing. Well, you can last 3 days without water and 21 days without food. So for a 3-day power outage scenario, 3 days without water, you're good until the 4th day. You absolutely do not need any water. You don't have to stock up a single drop of water. Because according to the experts, you can go 3 days without water. According to those same experts, you can go 21 days without food. So you don't even need a single meal in your home, according to the experts. The only thing you have to have for a 3-day outage is something to keep you warm enough from dying. Sleeping bag, Mylar blanket, Mylar sleeping bag, something to keep your body temperature above freezing. If you ask the prepper, on the other hand, they're going to tell you that you need 3 to 5 gallons of water per person per day. One for cooking, one for cleaning, one for washing, one for drinking, another one for miscellaneous. And that's per person per day. So for a 3-day event, you got to have 15 gallons of water. You don't want to set yourself up for just surviving, because surviving means sacrifice. Surviving means giving things up. And I am willing to sacrifice because I want to, not because I have to. You see, people survived the Great Depression. And when you talk to a lot of people, they survived it by that much. By the skin of their teeth, they survived the Great Depression. They stood in bread lines and they waited for their next meal. They hopped on trains going town to town, hoping, praying, wishing that somebody would give them something because they had nothing. They worked for their next meal. They worked for food. They didn't work for money, but instead they worked in the farmer's field for a bowl of soup. That is not how I want to live. Instead, when you look at the people who thrived during the Great Depression, it was the small family farms. The small family farms where they will tell you they had everything but money. That means that every time that they sat down at their dinner table every single night, they had a full meal set in front of them. They never went hungry. Sure, maybe they went without Christmas gifts and maybe they went without visiting a family member or two. They never went without food. They never went without water. They came together, harvested a hog. They went out on hunting trips. That is thriving. And you might say, well, yeah, but those people were poor. They were living like that anyway. Yes. But which one would you rather live like? Survival means sacrifice. Sacrifice means giving things up because you have to, giving things up because you hope that you get them back in return later on down the line, giving up your life, giving up your property, giving up your space because you have to. I don't want to sacrifice because I have to. I want to sacrifice because I want to. Maybe I don't want to watch TV anymore, so I cut it off and save my solar generator. That's my sacrifice. Maybe I don't want to use my propane because it's 50%, so instead we bundle up in blankets to stay warm during the wintertime. That is my sacrifice. But when you talk to some of these preppers, when you talk to some of these guys that have been doing this for years, they're talking about strictly survival. Barely making it through the skin of their teeth. Yeah, they've got food stock back, and they've got prep stock back, and they've got barter and trade items, but they're going to trade those barter and trade items for food because they're running out. I've spoke about this before. Your food stocks are great until you run out of them. And if you don't have a backup plan to restock those food preps, you are screwed. Now, maybe you have a lot of barter and trade items. You got guns, you got ammo, you got silver, you got gold. But then what? What are you going to do the next year? What are you going to do the next season? Because prices are going to increase, your stockpile is going to decrease. You're going to have to give up more and more and more and more just to get your bare necessities. You want to set yourself up not just for survival. Sure, I am willing to sacrifice if I have to. I am willing to skip meals if I have to. I'm willing to skip going down and getting water if I have to. But I want to set myself up so that that is one of the least things on my list. One of the last things I have to do. This weekend, we're building a water catchment system. That's awesome. 300 gallons at my fingertips. Sure, I have to purify it and I have to make it clean and safe to drink. It's mostly for the plants. But I have 300 gallons of water sitting beside my house. That's awesome. That means I don't have to go down to the river, don't have to go down to the creek, don't have to go down to the lake to get more water. That means when my kids are thirsty, all I got to do is purify it and make it safe to drink. Now, if it runs low, if it runs out, then I have to sacrifice a little bit. But if I only had a case of water sitting on the shelf and it's a 10-day outage or a 20-day event or a 15-year event, what are you going to do then? There's a lot of people who plan on running off into the woods. These are the guys who don't go on camping trips and bitch when they do. They plan on running off into the woods. That is a lot of sacrifice just to survive. Maybe you'll survive. Maybe you'll die in a week in the woods because you ate the wrong berries. Who knows? But that is a lot of sacrifice to ask of you and your family. I remember when I was 18, hell, that was a great idea. But now I've got a wife and kids. Yeah, they don't like camping that much. They definitely don't want to do it when the power goes out and the world starts burning around us. Every night sleeping in the woods, every night cutting firewood, every night having to go down to the river and hope you can find a trout or a bass or a catfish. Every night sharing your little makeshift tent setup with a bear or a coyote. That's a lot of sacrifice. Are you willing to sacrifice that much to go play Grizzly Adams in the woods? I'm not. Not unless I absolutely have to. But some people are setting themselves up where that is their only option. That is their only hope. Their only hope to survive any event is to go 21 days without eating, is to go 3 days without drinking the water, is to sit in their basement in the dark because they refuse to have lights, have power, have solar generators, have a backup generator. Set yourself up for success. The worst case scenario, you have all this extra stuff you can trade off. And it's not just buying shit, buying gear, buying little trinkets, right? It's not just about that. Yes, we review some great stuff on this channel, but you don't have to buy a single thing. It's not about buying it. You going out and planting crops in your yard, you going out and having chickens in your yard or livestock of any kind, you are already 10 times above what your neighbor is. You're already 10 times above what the town is. So if you can grow crops in your front yard, you are setting yourself up for success. But you want to set yourself up to thrive during an event. You want to be that person that sits here and goes, damn, we lost power? I didn't even know. Damn, we lost water? Had no clue. Damn, snowstorm came in and ripped everything apart. couldn't have told me. I didn't know any different. You want to thrive through the events. And yes, that does take more sacrifice now by going out, plowing the fields, by going out and having the livestock, by going out and learning what your wild edibles are. That is a lot of sacrifice now to make life easier then. You don't want to be the guy who just survives. And that's what a lot of people are setting themselves up for. A lot of people survived the Great Depression by standing in bread lines. A lot of people also survived the Great Depression by sitting on family farms. I know where I would want to be. The question is, where do you want to be? Make sure you can thrive through the event, because you don't want to just survive. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. That's all I got for today's video. Y'all stay safe out there. T2 out.